There are certain phrases in the German language that are so versatile that learning them can unlock a level of fluency that you never thought possible. Today, I'm going to teach you these phrases and sentences, but even more, I'm going to explain how to use them in such a way that they function as infinite sentences that can be used in a ton of situations. Let me start with a very boring sentence. Es gibt einen Hund im Garten. There is a dog in the garden. Not exactly thrilling. It looks like something Duolingo would make you translate about 400 times and then never think about again. But this sentence is actually incredibly powerful. Watch what happens when I change one small thing. Gibt es einen Hund im Garten? Is there a dog in the garden? That's it. Same words, same idea, but now you're not just describing something, you're asking about it. If you understand this structure, then you can swap out a few pieces, flip things around slightly, and suddenly you can talk about dozens of different situations without memorizing dozens of different sentences. Es gibt means there is or there are. And whether you realize it or not, you use this idea all of the time in your native language. Once you understand this structure, you can describe what exists and what doesn't exist and ask about your surroundings very naturally. Look at how much mileage you can get out of just 2 words. Gibt es ein öffentliches WC in der Nähe? Is there a public restroom nearby? Gibt es auf dieser Flasche Pfand? Is there a deposit on this bottle? Es gibt keinen Ketchup im Kühlschrank. There is no ketchup in the fridge. Es gibt ein Loch in meiner Socke und mein Zeh tut mir deswegen weh. There's a hole in my sock and my toe hurts because of it. Here's the key idea. With es gibt, the structure stays the same. You only change what exists and where it exists. Once you get that, you don't need to memorize sentences, you just reuse the pattern. Now let's build on that idea. Another sentence type that learners recognize immediately but rarely control is es ist mir or es ist dir or es ist ihm. For example, es ist mir wichtig, Deutsch zu lernen. It's important to me to learn German. A lot of learners stop right there and think, okay, I'll just memorize that. But this isn't just one sentence, it's a whole system. German often talks about how something feels to someone, not what someone feels. So once you understand mir, dir, ihm, uns, and this pattern, suddenly this all opens up. Es ist mir schwer, früh aufzustehen. It's hard for me to get up early. Es ist ihm egal, was wir machen. He doesn't care what we do. Es ist uns klar, dass das Zeit braucht. It is clear to us that this takes time. You're not learning new grammar here, you're reusing the same structure to talk about opinions, difficulty, importance, and emotions. But this sentence is way more flexible than it looks. Das macht mir Spaß. I enjoy that. Das macht mir Sorgen. That worries me. You can even use this without mir, dir, uns, and so on. Das macht keinen Sinn. That doesn't make any sense. Das macht einen Unterschied. That makes a difference. If you use this structure instead of translation, your German starts sounding much more natural. The phrase es kommt darauf an is one of my favorite real-life sentences. Es kommt darauf an. It depends. While you could simply memorize that phrase and use it on its own, this sentence is incredibly useful once you move beyond beginner German. Es kommt darauf an, was du meinst. It depends on what you mean. Es kommt darauf an, wie viel Zeit wir haben. It depends on how much time we have. Es kommt darauf an, ob wir morgen arbeiten müssen. It depends on whether we have to work tomorrow. This is the kind of sentence that adds nuance and sounds completely natural without being complicated. If you memorize 10 sentences, you get 10 sentences. But if you understand one structure, you get hundreds of sentences that you can make out of it. German fluency doesn't come from knowing more words. It comes from knowing how German builds thoughts. And these everyday sentence patterns are where it really starts to click. If you like this kind of real German that people actually use, the next logical step is idioms. German idioms work the same way. You can't translate them word for word, but once you understand how they function, they unlock a whole new level of natural expression. So go check out my video on German idioms that are used in real life. It builds perfectly on what we've talked about here. Bis dann! Tschüss!